Your Social Security check, the money you've worked hard for all your life, could be slashed by 25% in just 10 years. A new report came out from the Social Security Administration saying that the fund could be empty by 2035. That's only 10 years away. Let's look at why the reality may actually be worse, but then more importantly, focus on tips and tricks to protect your retirement. Like and subscribe below. Let's jump right into it. A lay of the land of what we're going to cover. First, we're going to look at the problem itself. We're going to focus on that new report from the Social Security Administration, but then we're going to add on new data from FRED. That's the Federal Reserve Economic Data source, which makes the original report look even worse. Second, we're going to do some myth busting for seniors, meaning we're going to take some common ideas that are held that may not be true that we need to address and clear out so you can make good decisions. And then finally, and maybe most importantly, we're going to cover tips and tricks on how you can offset these pieces of information and secure your retirement going forward. Let's jump into the problem first of all. Let's talk straight. Social Security is the backbone for millions of seniors in terms of retirement, and it's in trouble. What the report found is that right now it has about $2.8 trillion in it in 2025. That's expected to go to zero in 10 years by 2035. To the average senior, what does this mean? Well, it means that it's about a 20 to 25% reduction in what their take-home Social Security check will be. On average, that's about $400 to $500 a month. For many seniors who make the $2,000 average Social Security, this is a big hit. So that's the problem that's laid out in front of us. What's driving all this? There are actually three key drivers we need to look at. First, there are more retirees than ever. In 2025, there are 56 million people that are 65 and older, potentially in retirement, drawing on Social Security. That number is going to jump to 73 million by 2035. That's a huge swath of people who are now going to be taking Social Security, and it's primarily the baby boomers moving through that system. It's a huge drain on Social Security. It means billions more being paid out that it wasn't really designed for. So that's the first piece of the puzzle to look at. Secondly, here's the setup. In the 1960s, there were 5 workers for every retiree. Right now, there's 2.8 workers for every retiree, and that's going to drop to 2.3 by 2035. Most people think, well, when I'm paying into payroll taxes for Social Security, that's being invested away, and I will get that money and its returns when I retire. No, the current workers are paying for the current retirees right now. So when you have this huge bubble of retirees going through the system, there's fewer workers actually supporting that money going into Social Security and more money coming out. That's a big mismatch in terms of how the system is designed. And again, a lot of that is this bubble of the boomers going through. Let's now look at the third issue. Finally, everyone's favorite topic, inflation. We know costs have been ripping higher for the last couple of years. Social Security tries to address this with a COLA, a cost of living adjustment. In 2025, they essentially increased the amount you're going to get in your Social Security check by 2.5%. On average, that's about $50 a month. The problem is that doesn't come close to what's already out there in terms of the price of eggs, of insurance, of gas, of everything. Remember, inflation is the rate of increase, meaning those costs that went up over the last 2 years, they don't come down, they just don't go up as quickly. And so there's a big issue around Social Security still covering our basic costs. And the bigger issue is Congress continues to argue about this. And that if they don't come up with a fix, we're looking at those 25% cuts coming up that we talked about. In the comments below, let us know where you think the money for the funding to boost Social Security should come from. We're curious. Now, let's talk to the hidden piece of information that really shines a whole light on all of this from that FRED data. What that report found was that $50 billion extra was lost from Social Security in 1 year. That sounds bad, but even more importantly is that new FRED data. The FRED data basically looks at our total government debt, and this new piece, which wasn't that big of a problem a few years ago, which is interest on that debt. Because if you look at where Social Security, where the money comes and where the money goes, it's essentially part of our government budget. Well, that FRED data shows that this year's interest payment is $1.3 trillion. That's much more than what we pay out in Social Security right now. And that is only interest on the debt. Now, anyone who thinks that government debt is going to start going down, you may want to look at the data and what's happening. And a lot of that's demographics. The things we talked about where the boomers are becoming retirees, they spend less, they start to take out investments, it shrinks the economy. That means that debt is only going to go up. And if interest rates stay kind of where they're at or even come down a little bit, at 1.3 trillion, it puts more pressure on everything, including Medicare, Social Security, defense, because it is bigger than all of those. This is something that is going to make it even harder for the government to figure out how to shore up Social Security. Hold on to that piece. We're going to look at a couple myths, and then more importantly, we're going to look at tips and tricks you can use to actually protect your retirement in light of all this kind of negative information. Myth number 1, Social Security is guaranteed forever. No, it isn't. It has to be funded. That's the whole thing we're talking about. If they don't address these issues right now, we're looking at 25% of your benefits gone in 10 years. It has to have money in the pot to pay for it. And as the number of workers shrink and the number of retirees goes up, that gets harder and harder to do. There is no magic investment fund that you've been paying into and you draw off of. Your money as a retiree is coming, for the most part, from current workers that are paying into the system. That's where there's a mismatch. There is no guarantee. Myth number 2, your Social Security is never taxed. That was the case before, and we went into a whole video on if they get rid of taxation, what does that mean for your out-of-pocket? But up to 85% of your Social Security can be taxed. That's a big hit, and a lot of people don't plan for that, and they find out down the road, oh, that's $2,000 I'm on the hook for when I file taxes that I didn't know about. And then finally, myth number 3, Social Security will cover your costs. That's a big issue. Again, the average Social Security checks around $2,000. ARP showed that for most retirees to live comfortably, they need about $4,000. And that's based on today's costs. As we know, costs just keep going up. Social Security then is going to cover about half of the cost for most retirees. That's not going to cut it. We need to address that shortfall, the other 2K, in different ways. That's all the bad news. Let's now dive into tips and tricks we can look at to offset all of this. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe below as we continue to bring information you can use to secure your retirement and save money. Now hang around, we're going to talk about tips and tricks that do exactly that at the end of this video. Let's get back to it. Tip number 1, Social Security itself. We recommend that you either go to the local office or log on to your Social Security My Account and check the information in there, especially around income. Does it reflect all the income you made over the period of your life? Because if it doesn't, you may not be getting the full Social Security you should be. We see this all the time where someone double checks that information, corrects it, and gets a couple $100 more per month. Make sure that info is correct. Also, if you're married, see if there are ways for the claim for a person and a spouse is better or richer than if you're broken up separately. Again, reach out to Social Security. They can walk through this with you. It's very, very important. Now let's talk to what has become a huge cost, healthcare. Tip 2, healthcare costs. Increasingly eating up everyone's budget out there. And whether you just have Medicare, you have a Medicare supplement, Medicare Advantage plan, there are a lot of different strategies. But here's a big one. When you have a claim that goes through, never take the first denial at first glance. We had a person that we helped assist where they had a $6,000 bill for an anesthesiologist. The healthcare plan was saying they weren't going to cover it. The doctor said, nope, you have to pay for it, $6,000. We instructed that person on exactly what to say because they had an Advantage plan. They did the proper things, and they got that $6,000 removed. So we see this all the time. Bills you shouldn't be paying that are coming through, never take no as the first answer. And reach out to us, and we can help guide you a little bit on that process. But we love helping seniors find ways to save on that and not pay bills that the carrier or Medicare should be paying. That's number one. 2, Medicare supplements. The rates are kind of going through the roof right now. And this is new in 2025. After being pretty stable for a few years, we're seeing rate increases on Medicare supplements of 20%. What most people don't realize is in California, with the birthday rule, you can switch to the same or lesser plan around your birthday regardless of health. And we can usually find huge savings out there for the exact same plan, the exact same network. Most people are afraid of changing because they're like, I love my plan. I go to my doctors. None of that changes. Reach out to us. Let's see if there's a better option out there. Huge savings. Advantage plans. We're not in open enrollment right now, but definitely we need to start to look at that differently. For example, you have Part B give back plans that are out there. If you're in pretty good health or you have VA, there are plans out there that will pay money towards your Part B premium you get to Medicare. On average, that's about $185 a month. That's almost $2,000 a year. And there are Part B plans out there, Advantage plans, that may pay $100, $150 a month towards that, depending on your area. Let's double check. If you're in good health, a lot of people are gravitating towards those types of plans because they can save up to $2,000 a year. That's a lot of money. Those are 4 different ways to save and really looking at the Medicare and the healthcare side of things in terms of cost. Finally, let's turn to the income piece. A lot of seniors we talk to are asset rich, but cash flow poor, meaning they have their houses or they have a pension or money or retirement accounts, but things are still kind of stretched on the budget side. What they don't realize is Social Security essentially is an annuity. It's an amount you pay into all your life, and then it starts generating income. There are annuities out there, especially in today's rocky world around investments, that will pay out either a fixed amount of income or an amount of income tied to an asset like the S&P. Now, the difference with the S&P is it can go negative. You can lose money. With annuity, a fixed annuity, you can't go lower than 0. And even a lot of annuities out there, like some of the ones we like, they have a minimum interest rate, let's say 3 to 4%. And then if the market does well, you get a share of that, whichever's higher. These are fantastic for a lot of seniors who really shouldn't be in risk, but yet they need extra income and they have assets, maybe from an inheritance, from a pension, from a 401k, that they can use towards that. They just are scared of the loss you get with some of the other options out there. And for fixed income, it definitely can usually get more interest rate than CDs and things like that. We're happy to run those numbers for you either way and see if there's a way to bolster our income to make up for that gap between the average Social Security and what average person needs to retire in comfort.